Welcome to Week 1 of Education 355, Teaching Writing Across the Curriculum. We are going to look at our syllabus to see what our learning outcomes are and our tasks are as we are starting our Week 1 time together. So here is our syllabus. And let's go ahead and scroll down to what we should be seeing for Week 1. So we have 3 learning outcomes for Week 1. That you are going to be able to identify, describe, and order the stages in the writing process, be able to compare and contrast writer's workshop instruction versus traditional writing instruction, so what is the difference between those two, and demonstrate the writing process through a personal writing piece. These will be a part of Chapter 1 and Chapter 5 in your textbook, which is Teaching Writing, and then also a few videos about interactive notebooks. You will have some anchor charts and interactive notebooks that you'll be completing, an application of the content. You'll also have discussion boards and then your student writing piece. So let's go back into our weekly content and go into Week 1. So here you'll see the introduction video for the course itself. So let's talk first about discussion board for Week 1. So this is 2 parts as we start this course together. Part 1 is to tell us a little bit about yourself, and Part 2 is more about Chapter 1 itself. So if you click on this link here, it should take you right into the discussion board prompt where you will be able to create your thread. And again, remember that you're posting your comments. Then you also need to post to 2 other comments. And then make sure that you are citing information from your text. So there you saw that we've already had some completed for Week 1. So as we look at that prompt, remember Part 1 is an introduction of yourself. And so I want you to just speak to a little bit about what's your current role, the best memory of writing, and a question that you have about writing. So for me, my current role right now is obviously a professor and your instructor. My best memory of writing in elementary school, I will speak to as a student. My best memory was just kind of the free writing piece of it and journal writing and not having such a structured path to follow. And a question that I have about teaching writing in an elementary school, which may be something that most of you are thinking, is for something that is so open-ended, what are some ways that teachers have found that are best practices in managing teaching writing? It's not easy because you need to be providing feedback to so many in such a little amount of time that it's not easy to manage your time and classroom while teaching reading. So that's something that I may think about. So Part 2 of your discussion board, read Chapter 1 first, where it talks about the writing process and writer's workshop a little bit. I want you to compare and contrast writing workshop instruction versus traditional teacher-led instruction in writing. So how do teachers that you have seen teach writing in the classroom? Share a little bit about how the teachers that you're working with most often are teaching writing. So we have a variety of roles in this group. So if you are a TA, I want you to speak to your partner classrooms and how you're seeing teaching writing. If you are in a field experience, then you'll speak to that partnership classroom. If you are not a TA, if you are not in the field and you don't have a placement right now, I want you to just speak to your experience, maybe a high school setting that you remember most often, or if you've taken a college course on writing. So what is something that you remember as it relates to the content in Chapter 1? So think about the writing workshop itself, and then just speak a little bit about the differences and how teachers teach writing. Maybe you've seen a classroom that has a writer's workshop approach, and maybe you haven't. So I just want to kind of get some background information on that. So the big piece to this course is going to be your interactive notebook. And if you have had me for a class before, this is not new. It's something that I do in each of my classes that allows us to kind of have some conversation back to back and see your work as you're building it throughout the course. So here are some videos that I want you to watch about setting up an interactive notebook. and what it looks like. These two are just kind of general information about the interactive notebook. So if you don't know anything about it, if you've not seen them before, then those are two that I definitely want you to see. This is a video in particular about setting up a digital interactive notebook. So typically what you will see in elementary classrooms that are implementing interactive notebooks, they're hard copy in like a spiral notebook, but this is a digital version. And so if you watch those videos, it will give you some good background. And here are some images of ways that you can kind of build into what your interactive notebook is going to be. So you're creating the format is already created, but you're creating the details and the images that are going to go into this. So there is a rubric, and it is more so about each of the times that I'm asking you to add more to your notebook, what I'm looking for. So each week that you have something to add to your interactive notebook, please be sure that you're referring to the rubric where I explain everything that I will be looking for in that particular segment of your interactive notebook. So here you will see this is going to be the template. So you're going to click on this. Now remember, you are not going to edit this until you make a copy. So when you click on it, it will take you into this that says make a copy. Okay, so you're going to let it load up here. This is the format that you will follow, but again, you'll be adding pictures and content to this to be able to meet the expectation of the rubric, and then also to make sure that it's something that you can use as you prepare to be in the field. So before you edit anything, you're going to come up here to File, Make a Copy. You're going to rename it whatever you want, but please make sure that your either first or last or both name is in the title of your document so that I know what I'm going into or whose notebook I'm going into when I'm providing feedback. And so then you will find the place in your Google Drive where you want to store it, and then it will make a copy, and it will have edited and put your name in the title mark. Now, also remember that you are not Emily Turner. So after you create your copy of it, make sure that you put your name right here. And then the next and most important piece of this is you need to share it. So up here in the top right corner, there's going to be a blue button that says share. You're going to click on that. You can't see it right now because my video's there. So let me see. I don't know that there's, oh, there we go, share. So you can do the blue button that's up in this corner, or you can do the share button under File. So you want to make sure that you are going to share with me, and anyone on the link can view. You can also do edit and comment. Either one is fine. I'm not going to edit any of your content. The only thing that I would be doing is adding some comments to it. So you can decide what you're comfortable with as far as permissions of what you want me to be able to do. But you are going to share it not with my Campbell email because that is not a Gmail account. And so it makes it kind of tricky when I try to get in there and provide comments on it. So I want you to share with Dr. Emily A. Turner at gmail.com. So DrEmilyaTurner at gmail.com. So you will share that with me, and then I will send you an email that says I've received it, and then you don't have to do anything else other than just continue to add your content to the notebook. It automatically syncs with what I'm looking at, and so each Monday when I'm grading the work from the week prior, I will be able to see all of your updates. So just know that you need to share that with me. If you have done this before with me, an interactive notebook, you know that you need to share it now at the beginning of the course because I am going to be checking it and providing feedback on that. And so please, I know you may be thinking that it is something that is due by the end of the course. It is not. It is something that I need you to share now. Okay? So let's go back into your weekly content. And one of the other pieces, so Chapter 1 really speaks to the Writer's Workshop format and the writing process. And so chapter 5 speaks to your personal writing. So let's take a minute and really talk about what that means. So I'm just going to leave this screen up here and kind of just let's dig into first chapter 1. So thinking about this discussion board prompt that you're going to have for chapter 1. So we're really talking about the writing process. And so this is, if you can think of back to elementary classrooms that you may have been in, or you may be a TA in, or you may have worked in. This is where we're working through the pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. And so those steps are very much, they each have their own kind of intricacies and important things that we need to make sure are happening. And so chapter 1 really digs into those 5 stages in the writing process. We want to make sure that we know where students are within that process at all times, because it's not going to be the case that you have 25 students in your classroom and 25 students are all on editing. You will have clusters in different stages when you're teaching writing, so you really have to know each of your students and where they are in that process to be able to provide them feedback on what they need to be doing so that they're ready for the next step. And really and truly, as the name suggests, this is a process. So you cannot edit before you pre-write. You cannot publish before you draft. So you really need to follow those 5 steps in sequence as a process as indicated. Once you read a little bit about the writing process, chapter 1 digs into what is writing workshop. And so Writer's Workshop is a particular instructional process that really allows for the best practices in writing to happen and the students to have the best results from their writing as they're publishing. And so Writer's Workshop typically has 4 pieces to it. You have a mini lesson, you have probably a read aloud in there somewhere, you have some independent writing, and then you have sharing. And so those 4 pieces are happening as your writing workshop block is happening. And so it's not that you're going to teach about writing something for 45 minutes and then you have a little bit of time for them to practice, like maybe some instruction is happening in other content areas. If you are truly teaching in the workshop format, you have a mini lesson that is absolutely no more than 15 minutes. It really should be close to 10 minutes. And you are gearing your focus on something, you're like kind of hyper focusing on something for that workshop. And then you're going to have some sort of read aloud where you are showing the application of that, and then independent writing where they're kind of practicing what you just did your mini lesson about. So it should be something relevant, and they're all kind of connected, these 4 pieces of the mini lesson. So I'm really interested to see what you guys are coming up with for your interactive notebook with regard to the writing process, but then also in your discussion board about Writer's Workshop, because it's not something that happens everywhere, but really should be happening because it is a best practice. Then your weekly writing piece. So this week you're going to be doing a personal writing piece. And in chapter 5, we talk about that personal writing can be journals or letters. And so it is something that is very personal. And there are so many different kinds of journals and different kinds of letters. So it's not just what you're thinking as, open up a notebook and add a journal entry. There are different types of journals that students can write to. And the same for letters, different kinds of letters as well. And so assessing personal writing is something that's really difficult as far as nailing down specific criteria. We want to make sure that we are looking at the stamina of the writing, and we're looking at is the student's voice and really personality coming out through the writing as they practice more? Are they using their sight words more in their writing? And so you are going to be doing a personal writing piece. So here is the rubric that explains what I'm looking for. You are going to choose a journal entry or a letter. Look at chapter 5 for what that information is, and you're going to create a multi-page document that you're going to turn in, because I want to be able to see your pre-writing, I want to see your draft copy, I want to see your revision and editing marks, and I want to see a final version. Be creative. This is something you are writing to. It doesn't have to be something from a student perspective. It is from your perspective. Just be sure that you are looking at this rubric so that you can see what I'll be grading against. Let me know if you have any questions with regard to week